Hello all, and welcome to my channel where we're talking about the science behind coping with the coronavirus pandemic. My name is Christian Waugh. I'm a professor of psychology at Wake Forest University. A couple things about this channel. First, we're talking about the science of coping and mechanisms involved. We're not talking about advice or tips or tricks specifically. There are plenty of other resources out there for that. The second thing is, this is a series of videos, so if you're enjoying this video, please do subscribe or hit the bell button so that you're notified when a new video comes online. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy this one. All right, we're here with Kateri McRae, a good friend of mine, a professor at University of Denver.
And I just so happen to be here at the University of Denver.
Exactly. How were you able to get out of your house? I'm impressed.
You know, I got special permission to just hang out right in the middle of this pond.
Good. And she is a specialist in something called cognitive reappraisal, a particular type of regulating emotions. So we're going to talk about it today. So let's start off with what is reappraisal?
So reappraisal builds on the idea that one of the major reasons we have the emotions that we do is we have certain thoughts, and that thoughts cause emotions. So the appraisal part of cognitive reappraisal refers to appraisals or evaluations or thoughts that we have. The reappraisal part is rethinking or discovering new thoughts that might lead to new emotions. So a really common example of a reappraisal might be in that initially, if you get some bad news, like let's say you get an email saying that the super special, awesome summer program that you were really looking forward to has been completely canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's currently no plans to launch it again. It's sort of a wait and see situation. Your initial appraisal might be that that is not compatible with your goal of going to do this super awesome thing in the summer. And you might feel something like disappointment. You might feel something like anger at the world. You might feel sadness or grief. All of those things are perfectly natural to feel in that situation, but you might reappraise that situation by telling yourself that there will be other summer programs that for the rest of your life, this is not the last summer of your life. And that this is, you know, that canceling this program was a smart thing to do, a necessary thing to do, and this is just part of everybody sort of pitching in for the moment that we're in right now to keep everybody safe and healthy, and all of that sort of thing.
That's great. That sounds like a really great example of a good reappraisal that someone may have to sort of help them feel better during the pandemic. Are there examples of maybe potentially not very good reappraisals that may be less effective?
Sure. I would say in general, two reappraisals that some people sometimes use, but might not be always really adaptive or recommended, are one is to sort of deny the reality of the situation. So you can tell you know, this would be sort of, it's almost comical in the example that I gave, but you could be like, maybe this isn't really an email from that summer program. Maybe it's someone else pretending to be them in an elaborate scheme to get me to cancel my summer plans.
Yeah.
Probably not very realistic in this particular case. Another one that I think sometimes a lot of people go to is sort of discounting the importance of that that goal to them. Sometimes that can actually be really helpful, right? Sometimes you can say, you know what, that wasn't really the most important part of my summer anyway. And if that's true, that's a great reappraisal. But if it was an important part of your summer, if you just sort of shrug it off and say, you know what, I wasn't really that emotionally attached to going to that thing anyway, and it'll be better because I'll make my own camp, and that'll be fine. Like that sort of tends to border into a space where you're maybe not allowing yourself to be realistic about what your expectations were, and allowing yourself to kind of like have permission to really grieve for the loss of something that was important to you.
Sure. So it sounds like a little bit of a difference between a kind of acceptance of some things that are a little bit outside of your control and acknowledging that you feel the way you do, and changing your mind about things that maybe you can think about differently that may help you feel better.
Absolutely. That's the magic balance.
So one thing that I've found is it seems easier and, I don't know, more valid to kind of reappraise for myself. But when I start doing it for other people, they kind of get mad at me. Do you find it? Is there any research about how to help others reappraise when we're not very good at it ourselves?
You know, I feel like there's actually two answers to that question that are somewhat in conflict. So, if your goal is to generate good reappraisals for your own use, it actually can be really helpful rather than trying to generate them for yourself, is to think what you might give as advice to a friend.
Mm.
Sometimes that allows us just a little bit of distance, a little bit of perspective from a situation. And it's a really common thing that a therapist will ask you to do. Say, okay, what if it wasn't you whose summer program was canceled? What if this was your best friend? What would you tell your best friend? And instantly you can say, oh, I tell my best friend not to worry about it. There'll be something good next summer. Like maybe you'll find something better to do. It's sometimes harder to generate those alternate interpretations for yourself because you're too close to it. On the other hand, there are times when what other people don't actually want in a situation is a new way to think about the situation. Sometimes they just want permission to feel what they're feeling. And sometimes too quickly offering a reinterpretation feels like it's invalidating their feeling, because if they really believed your reinterpretation, their feelings should just disappear in a snap, right? And they really kind of just want to like sit in that for at least a minute or two. Now, if people are still sitting in that, you know, weeks and months later, one could argue that maybe offering them reappraisal is really good, but like, right, you know, imagine if you just got that negative email and then your spouse comes prancing in and says, maybe this will be the best summer of your life. You're like, that's not what I need right now, right? And there's actually, some people have started to refer to this as toxic positivity, right? When you're not sensitive to the sort of context and what it is that person sort of wants to be feeling at that time. I'm a really big fan of a 1-2 punch for both yourself and others, where when you first get bad news or you first encounter a negative emotional situation, go ahead and indulge in a little bit of distraction. On the level of like minutes to hours, I think it's totally okay to distract yourself from something. And then you can start to think about how to like reinterpret it so that it doesn't like linger too long. Distraction is wonderful in the short term. It's not the best long-term strategy for changing how you feel.
I think that's a great, we talked about distraction in one of our other videos and how it can be powerful if you do it the right way. So the idea here is, it seems like what you're saying is, think about things differently. If you can, allow yourself time to think about them. If it makes you feel bad, it's okay to feel bad. Maybe give yourself some time to reappraise, and be sensitive to maybe others as well and their own process, right? Don't tell them to just see the silver lining. It's okay. At least we're all together in the house, you know, as not immediately, at least, and give them some time to kind of process things themselves.
Totally.
All right. Appreciate it. And thanks for being with us and sharing in this video. And as all, you know, there are other videos out there if you want to check them out. And maybe I'll have Dr. McRae back. You're a very good interviewee, so I appreciate it.
It's true. You know, the next time you call, I have a suspicion I'll be on the beach.
Yeah.
But other than that.
Amazing. She's the only one who can do this. But until then, thanks and be well.
You too.